Hello, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Bree Ferraro. I am your host for What's on the Breeze. And today, the breeze blew in our student government president, Darsh.
Hey guys, nice to be here. I'm super excited to be speaking with you and, having students listen in.
Toot. Okay, so I'm going to start off with a little history of the university because I feel like a lot of people don't really know anything about here, and it's a wonderful school, and the history is pretty rich. So, it's a relatively new university. It's only about 80 years old. It officially opened in 1964. President Lyndon B. Johnson came down and opened the university, and he said, and I quote, FAU is a new revolution in education, and it is a university that will be best known for global leadership and educational professions. So, with that being said, FAU did come from very humble beginnings. It started out as an airfield in World War II, and from that airfield, after the war was over, families settled on this land. It was farmland for a while, and the state bought the farmland back from the families who, if you know Yamato Road, it was the Yamato family. Their farm was failing, and they basically settled with the state for a good amount of money so the state could buy land and build the university on it. Um, let's see what else is really important. Oh, so our first our first FAU residence hall was called Algonquin, and it no longer exists. It was actually torn down about 5 or 6 years ago, and it was replaced by Atlantic Park Towers APT right on Opportunity Way and Dade Avenue. Um, the only structure that is still here from World War II is UVA. UVA was used as a barracks, and God bless, it's been recently updated. It's been recently updated, so
Thankfully.
yeah, because it was kind of ghetto over there. But recently updated, so it looks better on the inside than it does on the outside. It still looks a little old, but rich history. FAU is a wonderful place, and for whatever reason, a lot of people don't know that we're called the owls because we're an owl sanctuary.
Yeah.
And burrowing owls are a species of owls that are only native to the state of Florida. And from what I know as of right now, we are the biggest burrowing owl sanctuary in the state, which I think is pretty awesome. We also are a sanctuary for tortoises, but they're only that sanctuary spot is only present right behind the football stadium. So if you guys want to go check it out, it's a little fenced in area right next to where we have our tailgates. So a lot of people this semester has in media in general, student government has been under I really want to say a lot of fire? I wouldn't say a lot of fire. It's more of people don't really know what SG does. Like they know that there's a student government president, that there's a governor, that we have this sort of governing body that looms over us and makes decisions, but we never see them and we don't really know what they do. So now we can learn from our very prestigious president, Darsh.
Yeah. So, when we talk about student government, first and foremost is a lot of us in executive positions are, we're always busy. So, it is a little hard to be, in the face, be, consistently present, but, we do try our best. So, you know, I I do agree. We look at the media and kind of the response there. And yeah, I think that there are a lot of students who don't really fully understand what we do, especially because our job is to bridge the gap between the students and the administration, providing their needs, providing their wants, and really just letting them know this is the student experience, this is what student life has right now. Um, but I think that, when you have something as public as student government, whether it be at any university, you know, making sure that it's public and transparent and open is first off what everyone wants to see. And so, I think that whatever position or organization you're in, when things happen and students don't know, people come under fire. But I think that, within these positions, we look at that and we say, so this is good constructive criticism for us to not only grow the network, but grow the bridge and really make sure that that gap lessens. Because In some, recent years, what we've kind of noticed is that there's supposed to be a bridge between the students and admin, and instead it feels like there's, you know, a gap that is somewhat trying to be bridged between the students and student life into SG, and then SG all the way up to admin. And so, finding a way that we can cut that down is, for one, really important. But for two, I think that, we have gone about numerous ways in terms of marketing. And, one of the most important things to understand is not everything happens immediately,
Yeah.
right? Majority of us, especially in these executive positions, we come in, we have one term. Not many people go for 2 terms within these positions. And it's, what can we do within this year? And so when elections come around in, February, it's, this is a main priority, and then bridging the gap between the next administration and the current one. And so, this is where having talks about, what we can do to set up long-term plans and really make sure that, we're negotiating, we're communicating with everyone around us is really important. So, yeah.
That's good. I know you just mentioned the elections, so could you talk a little bit more about the elections? Because I know a lot of students, like my first 2 years here, I didn't know that that was a thing that we could vote on.
Yeah.
And if I did find out we could vote, I didn't know how to do it because I didn't really see, it's not like a presidential campaign. Like you don't see anybody actively campaigning. You don't see people walking around campus with buttons like you would like for homecoming.
Yeah.
So how exactly does that, what is the process of the election and running and all of that?
Yeah, so we have our fall and our spring elections. So the fall is for the legislative session, which is, the Senate and all of our House reps. So, they're kind of campaigning. I'll say I completely understand a lot of what went on within my election, but, it's been really clear that we've gotten more students engaged since last spring. So shout out to my vice president, Cade Salzer, because he's the current supervisor of elections as the VP, and he does a phenomenal job. But the walkthrough is, first off is starting and declaring, right? So you submit your forms, and then you go to the mandatory candidacy meeting, which outlines your timeline, outlines what you can do, what you can't do, and really just making sure that students are compliant, but more importantly, held accountable, right? We want to run fair elections. We want to make sure that, students aren't going and violating statutes and, doing things that are going to give them a completely unfair competitive advantage. And so, that's where, having good statutes in terms of where our elections are really important. But after that meeting kind of follows, you essentially have the amount of time from then until voting days to go out and campaign, right? I can tell you about my campaign process was, go out on the breezeway, engage students, like do whatever, whether it's handing out shirts, handing out flyers. Like the more students that you can talk to, the more students you can have an impact on, really to garner their vote, and not just their vote, but garnering their support, right? Because a vote can go, only such a short amount of time. But you want to make sure that students trust you when you're in office. You want to make sure that, they believe in you, and you want to make sure that they can put their faith in you. Because, at the end of the day, we don't come here to serve ourselves. We come here to serve the student body. And so, the elections process is quite interesting, right? We have, looking at other schools from my perspective as president in the elections, where, some schools do run the Senate in the fall. Some schools run the Senate in the spring. And so, where we're at is we think that it's more so efficient for turnover and for transition to have kids who are doing the majority of, the fiscal year instead of when you have presidents who are doing the spring to get elected in the summer and move through kind of a whole year from summer to fall to spring. So it's really interesting.
It sounds like it because I guess the contrast, well, to me, as an FAU student, but really just in general, I feel like it makes more sense to do it in fall, simply because it's like the actual beginning of every school year. And the beginning of every school year is marked by the bonfire, which is thrown by PB. And you guys are usually always there, showing face, support, like showing your support for the student body and everything like that. And with that kickoff, it just sort of makes more sense for you guys to put yourselves in a position to
just right out the gate.
yeah, like
Yeah, I completely understand that.
completely
Yeah.
build off of what you had in previous years, the previous administrations, and from that knowledge, you can open
Yeah.
with a huge big bang
Yeah.
and build on top of what the vibe is from that.
Yeah.
And I feel like this semester so far, or this school year so far, I feel like you guys have actually done a really good job
Thank you.
with not just supporting the students, even though they actually don't know what you look like or who you are, but behind the scenes, you're supporting the students. You make sure a lot of things are being put in place to better us as a general student population, not just here, but on other campuses as well.
Yeah.
So I think that genuinely you guys have done a very good job, and I very much appreciate what you guys have done and the fact that you have had the courage to go out and step into this position to try and better the university as a whole, because there's not a lot of people who are here that take pride in the university, and to see you as a student leader taking pride very openly in the university and wanting to make it a better place, I feel like it's very inspiring to the rest of us, and we can really learn from taking pride in the place that we
call our
decided to go
home,
to. Yeah,
right?
like
Yeah.
it's not like we just happened upon this place. We had to apply to get into this
Exactly.
university,
Exactly.
and we chose to continue to come here, and we pay to go here.
Exactly.
So at the end of the day, if we're paying money to have this experience, we should be supporting the people that make the experience as wonderful as possible.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that where we are in terms of whatever it is within the public and public scrutiny is that these positions are always open to controversy. These positions are always going to be publicly scrutinized, right? There are students who don't always fully agree with the decisions that we make and all the spending that we do. But, at the end of the day, my job is to make decisions that are best for the students and best for the institution. And so, I get it. I try to be visible, but having such a busy schedule, busy workload, it's hard, right?
Yeah.
We're working, myself, I'm probably working 6 to 8 hours a day,
Yeah.
and I think that there's a line, right,
Mhm.
where you care too much about being visible, and when you're being too visible, are you doing the actual work that you need to be getting done? And so that's the kind of the most important of my role, right? I get it. We talk about the visibility aspect and students knowing us, but then the other half of it is also, we do so much work internally, administratively, proposing programs, and all sorts of proposals, not only to trustees, but, in terms of policy with the university and, what we can do for students. And so, there's definitely a line where I say, can I fully give 100% to really ensuring that, we're making everything run properly if I'm being too visible?
Yeah.
And, I show up to all the events that I can, really make sure just to be out there to talk to students,
Yeah.
because that's the point of it, is to be engaged. And, I feel like we have a very impactful mission, and, we've been able to do a lot for students this year. And so, I think that you talk about at the end of your term, which it's in basically a semester and a half,
Yeah.
is that you question whether or not you had any regrets on what you've done, and I can tell you I have nothing that I've done that I don't think like, wow, I would have gone about this different, and I think that that's so important,
Yeah.
so important.
That's good. I know that you and the governor have separate administrative cabinets, so
Yeah.
would you talk about that a little bit more, like who's in which cabinet and what the difference is between the two, like the two things that you guys handle?
Yeah. So first off, I love Governor Moore. Lance is absolutely
He is.
phenomenal.
He's so funny and nice. He's actually probably one of the sweetest people I've met
He
here
is.
being back.
He is. He's done such a great job thus far, and I'm really proud of all the work that he's accomplished. But Lance and I in our executive positions, we have different roles, right? So Lance looks at everything as governor from more of a Boca specific position, where he's focused on our flagship campus, what goes on within Boca, what he can do to cater to Boca students. Whereas I, as president, look at everything university wide, right? we have such a large geographic impact, and such a large imprint. My job is to take a look at every one of these campus. What can I do for our students in Fort Pierce all the way to Dania Beach,
Yeah.
right? Our kids who are studying at HBOI and our northern campus,
Yeah.
like Jupiter, right?
Yeah.
What can I do to cater initiatives and programs that are to them, but also make sure that this affects, and has a good effect on the student body, university wide. But also, what can I do to help implement programs that are going to get to our commuter students, to the kids who, aren't as engaged, to the students who are coming to school and going home, who are, online, or our Boca kids.
Yeah.
And so, the kind of difference is really just where, we look at everything from a larger administrative perspective on, this will work in Jupiter, this will work in Broward, this will work in Boca. And, we know that this can have an effect and outreach to the students at Dania Beach who, we want to make sure that students aren't living within the bubbles that, the campuses can sometimes be. And I think that we've done absolutely phenomenal job this year, getting students more engaged. I'm originally a Jupiter student, so,
Wow.
Coming from that environment to here and understanding
I know
that,
it's different.
yeah, it's very different. And the needs are catered very differently, but really making sure that, we have the programs to benefit kids all around is what's best. But, in terms of where we are cabinet wise and administratively, right, not only am I president, but I'm also a trustee. And so having his, understanding, or Governor Cooper's understanding in Jupiter is really important to a lot of the decision making. But in terms of, roles and how our cabinets work is, we, try to work on things, be cohesive. They're right down the hall, right?
Yeah.
So, it's really important that we have a lot of their impact, because the critique goes a long way in implementing larger strategies to build upon throughout the year, whether it be, fiscally on investments or actual program implementation itself. But, he has a treasurer the way that I, the same way that I have a CFO. My marketing director is phenomenal, so is his. We both have chiefs of staff, right? So, we have a lot of similarities. I would say that really the only difference is that, I have a director of governmental relations who bridges the gap, trying to ensure that, the student experience is brought about to the legislator, whether it be, the Florida legislator or federal legislator. So, Ellie does a great job there as our director of governmental relations. But, Lance also has Savvy.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, Lance also has PEP, and so he takes more of a intricate, isolated look on, mental health, on outreach within the community. Whereas, I also have a sustainability director who looks at, the sustainability of programs, what we're doing environmentally, and what we can do to help the school out. And so, I think that there are a lot of, comparisons to be brought about within our, our positions and our appointments. But, I think that he has a really special look at how to personally go about getting students engaged within the community, whether it be like outreach, like even like simple beach cleanups to do those little things. Like,
I actually enjoy the beach cleanups.
it goes such a long way.
Especially since we're literally 1.8 miles from the beach, we can walk to the beach in less than 45 minutes.
Exactly.
And we're absolutely blessed. I will continue to say that FAU is absolutely blessed to have the location that we have, because not only does it welcome like a diverse array of so many students, but we genuinely are housing staff is actually the highest paid in the state.
Yeah.
So FAU does a lot for its students, and the location builds on everything that FAU does.
I
We're
agree.
right by the beach. All we have to do right after class, if it's a nice day out, literally
Go
walk
out.
to the beach,
Yeah.
walk to the beach, take a dip, tan.
Yeah. We're so lucky to be where we are geographically, I think.
And
Like,
Jupiter is also
Jupiter is also
right
right
on the beach.
Right on the beach.
And Harbor Branch is literally at a port.
Yeah.
So
We also
right
have
there.
Dania Beach, who's also right there.
Literally.
I mean, Broward is, our Davie campus are in a great position. We have Los Olas, where a lot of our architecture students are.
So nice.
Like, we are so lucky to span, I'd say probably about 160 miles north to south, and really just, be able to provide students with that experience,
Yeah.
right? You don't ever have to. Actually, this is funny actually to talk about, because one of the most important things when I thought about, running was, how do we make students feel like we're all FAU together, right?
Yeah.
I'm not just a Jupiter student. I'm not just a Boca student. I'm not just a Broward student. And, I think that we've done a really good job collaborating with everyone this year thus far. And, I think that it's really special, you know. I love students who are engaged. I
Yeah.
love people involved. And, you know, I think that, again, maybe some people don't see it, but, we try our best to be out there, to be present. And so, it really goes a long way. I'm really proud not only to be president, but I'm really proud of the students who go out. They put themselves in the tough positions and ask the really hard questions, and
Yeah.
they do the hard work. Like it's there's nothing that we could be more excited about than students who want to call this their home, who want to be here, who want to make change on campus, right? When you can be a catalyst for change, it's so important to come into these leadership positions, and that's what it's all about, right? I looked at it and I said, this is kind of how things were for the last 5 years. What can we do differently this time? And so I'm fully confident in the belief that we've tried to every extent the best that we can. But a great look at it in terms of engagement is even our football games, right? We've invested into our football games, and I went to those games last year. I did not see many students in the student section, but it's been way more consistent now. And so, I feel really confident moving forward working with athletics. The Director White, who, oversees everything, has done an absolutely phenomenal job of being engaged with us and holding those conversations. So, it's a really, I was talking a lot about this in Tallahassee yesterday and the day before, when we were lobbying, but it's a great time to be at FAU. It's a great time to be an OWL.
The change that I saw, okay, so I got here 2021 summer, and I took 2 years off in the middle just to like travel, get myself together. I had some deaths in the family. I needed to take a break. But now that I'm back, the absolute night and day difference between 2021 and now is literally, it's completely outstanding. And the amount of money that has been poured into the university and allocated properly to have a better community for the students, like CAPS, counseling and psychological services, which is free for all students. Just so
really
you know.
great place to go to.
And it got a completely new makeover, like redone. It looks absolutely gorgeous.
The renovations, the massage chairs, like students can go there and they feel safe. Like that's the point of it. That's the point of it.
And I've seen the difference between CAPS then and CAPS now. CAPS then was kind of scary. Like, it genuinely felt like the back rooms. But, oh my gosh, you guys do absolutely so much. What do you think are some misconceptions that people have about student government?
This is, I've never been asked that question, but it's really interesting because I think students think we're like glorified event planners, which
they really don't think you guys do
it's
anything.
not like we put on a lot of events, and we have a lot of students who are doing great work putting on these events. But I think that what they don't realize is we're more than just what's being seen, right? Like it's not even just being a voting member on the trustees. It's really just about what we do internally to provide academic resources and support to students, right? Like students have the opportunity to relieve financial burdens and go and get payments for textbooks. I don't think a lot of students know that, but getting out that visibility, getting out that marketing, like really showing the students is important. But I think one of the misconceptions is that we're so closed off from everyone. And I can tell you that that's not the truth, right? I encourage students to walk into my office, come talk to me about anything. Like, it doesn't matter. The point of it is for me to be here as a support and a member to give you a role, not only to be engaged, but for any student to come to me and ask, is this what's best for us, or like what are you going to keep doing to make sure that we're thriving academically or thriving,
or we have the best academic resources that we need. I know SG, I'm not sure how much say you guys have in our academic centers. Like, we have the math lab, we have the writing center, I believe, and we also have basically the whole second floor of the Breezeway is dedicated to student resources. Like
Yeah.
we have a doctor's office essentially
Yeah.
where if students
Student
want,
health services.
yeah,
Yeah.
if students want a flu shot, if they just need a quick little checkup, if they're not feeling well, they can go there and
Get checked up by someone, and
yeah, so
you
they
know,
don't
it's
have
really convenient.
they don't have to leave. They don't have to go to the hospital right across the street. They have something on campus.
Exactly.
And we do now have dentistry.
In what regards? We don't have a dental school,
No,
but
we don't have
have
a dental school, but we
we
have
have like a program to
Yeah.
kind of accelerate students there. So I mean, we're building a lot academically. So I think that, you know, a great example is us going to lobby for like student, you know, health and medical. Is that, you know, the impact that we have talking to a legislator about our experience is really important to provide them with the understanding of, you know, this is a school and this is a university that is investing in STEM research, that is making waves throughout the area, and you know, Alzheimer's, dementia research.
yes, we have a like right outside of, I wouldn't say right outside the university, on the far side of the university where the stadium is, right across the street from the owl sanctuary I was talking about before, there is a Alzheimer's research center.
Yeah, Research Park is right over
Yes.
there, but we also have, you know, in Jupiter we have Stiles Nicholson, the Brain Institute there. We have Max Planck, which is based out of Germany. We have, you know, the only center in America, and then we have UF Scripps, which you know is absolutely a phenomenal partnership.
Yeah, actually.
So, you know, I think we're in a great place, especially with the med school. And if we can keep investing into the research that we have, not
Yes.
only as an R1 and an opportunity school, but, you know, the goal is to always grow, right?
And
Recruit, retain, rise, make sure that
FAU is
students have,
growing.
yeah,
We are finally in the top 100
exactly.
universities in the entire country, and I think that is absolutely amazing. And I was talking about diversity earlier. FAU is home to like 47% of FAU students are minority students, like, and they come from 49 states, including the District of Columbia, and from 139 different countries around the world, and 139 out of 195.
That's absolutely phenomenal.
It is. It's absolutely
That really
amazing.
says that, you know, our school is a center for change, and, you know, students can come here. You know, it's very interesting because, you know, you see everything that goes online, and you see what people are posting, and, you know, we see it, we understand. But, you know, we are trying our best to, you know, be the best institution in Florida, right? You know, we have a lot of celebrated accolades. R1, Opportunity School, it's one of
And
21.
we're number one in the nation for our MBA program.
Yeah, we have a, oh my God, I forgot what it is, but we have an absolutely phenomenal self-sustaining executive program
Yes, we
with
do,
our
actually.
masters. But our College of Medicine is terrific.
And our nursing program it usually bounces between 1, 2, and 3 in the entire nation.
It's phenomenal.
And it is so competitive to get into, and we need to, like, there's a lot of nursing students here, but honestly, we need to give them props for everything that they do. It's hard to get into the program as it is, but the rigor that it takes to
I
be
agree.
studying all day, all night, and then having to take your boards, having to do, what's it called? Like when they go to the hospitals. I feel so bad.
No,
It's literally escaping my mind right now.
it's on the tip of my tongue. I also forgot.
But having to do that, because I know that a lot of the time they don't go to hospitals that are close. I had
Yeah.
a friend who had to drive all the way down to Kendall from here, which is what, like almost 2 hours?
Yeah, I'd say probably 2:15.
Yeah, just to go work at a hospital for a few hours and then drive all the way back up here just to study for more hours. So because she might have a test, she might have assignments, she might have reading to do. And by the time they graduate, they are ready to take their boards and go straight into the workforce.
So, you know, that's what I think is so special about FAU, right? We talk about recruiting, retaining, and rising, you know, not only through the ranks. You know, I look at this administratively. I think that it's absolutely phenomenal to celebrate that we are now a top 100 university. It is such a great thing to have. But, you know, for my position is, what can I do to leverage this position to get us into top 75, into top 50, and creating a strategic vision that we know is going to bolster the university itself, but also the value of my degree, the value of your degree, and really making sure that, you know, students have an opportunity. And, you know, it's very interesting because we talk about the workforce today, and it's it's hard to get a job. It's scary. You know, you're taking that next step out of college. And I think that we have such a large economic impact within the community, and that, you know, we have the ability to create the workforce of tomorrow.
Yes, we
We
do.
have the
And
connections.
I stress that literally, I don't even know how many times I've talked about that on this podcast, but we are building a foundation to be the leaders of tomorrow. Like, we are going to be the next world leaders. It is our generation. And we have a responsibility not only to ourselves, but to the people around us to learn as much as we can, to read as much as we can, to engage with everybody that we possibly can. And having students, 47% of our population is not American. And I think that just having that statistic alone gives us such an advantage over schools like UCF, USF,
Yeah.
I don't know, Georgia State even.
Yeah.
It gives us a lot of it gives us an extra foot in the door.
There's so much
We're
variety within the
yeah.
portfolio, essentially, and, you know, bringing all these, you know, students of different backgrounds allows for kids to interact, for them to, you know, think outside the box, and, you know,
Gain different
yeah.
perspectives.
And perspective is so important.
Yeah, and I feel like, as I keep saying, I feel like I know, not just from my experience, but from experiences of other students that I've interacted with from absolutely all over the world. Had I not come to FAU, I know I would not have been able to talk to people from on the other side of the world, like from Japan, from Korea, from Australia, from France, from Russia, from Bulgaria, everywhere in the world. And I'm absolutely thankful, not even to mention our Indian exchange students or our students from Africa or the Caribbean, having those perspectives, understanding where they came from.
But that creates so much, it creates so much change. These, you know, you can be someone from a small town and you come here and you meet someone from, you know,
A big city.
a big city or somewhere internationally, and it puts you in a different spot. You know, you gain so much more perspective, you gain so much more understanding of, you know, what is this person going through, you know, and that's I think is the beauty of education, is that education, you know, within our public university bridges the gap, not only to create opportunity, but to give students the most important thing, not only, you know, to grow academically, but I think one of the most important takeaways is that you come to college and you grow as a person, right? It's not only, you know, your professional advantage, but your personal advancement. And so I think that it's so important to have students from all around, you know, talking to each other, you know, meeting, going to events, getting engaged, because, you know, it helps put them in a different spot, right? You know, I can tell you that when I first came to college, the way that I thought was completely different than I do now. And I think that that's, you know, from facing adversity and seeing so many new experiences and talking to people about your experiences, that it personally, you know, builds something within you.
Yes, it does. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Wow. I feel like, okay, if you're comfortable, do you want to tell us just a little bit about yourself?
Yeah.
Where you're from, what your major is, how old you are, stuff like that.
Yeah, so I'm 21. I'm from Sarasota, Florida. I am half Puerto Rican, half Asian. So, you know, my dad is from Puerto Rico. My mom is, you know, someone who came here, I think in like the 70s or the 80s. So, you know, both my parents, you know, I'm from Cleveland. I was born there, but, you know, they didn't have everything right. You know, they've always instilled the importance of hard work, and, you know, I'm super blessed to have, you know, two really great parents. You know, my dad is a doctor. He's provided a lot of, you know, nutrition in terms of, you know, academics and, you know, experiences in my life. Yeah, and so, you know, it's gone a really long way, but, you know, I'm studying political science right now. You know, I'm always thinking, leaving the door open on what I want to do, but, you know, I think that the background has been so important to, you know, the college experience, understanding what I can do, and, you know, helping students.
Yeah.
Right. We look at where a lot of our students are, and, you know, we have a large amount of kids who are in the business program. So, you know, I always say, you know, what can we do to help the students in the College of Arts and Letters, or, you know, what can we do to help college
Arts and letters.
science, you know? That's what I'm
Arts
saying.
and letters is, I feel like it's, as an arts and letters student, I'm actually a philosophy student. There are 22 of us. That's it. 22. And it is such an underrated major, but as a student who's in the College of Arts and Letters, I feel like people don't really understand they don't give us enough credit for everything that we do.
I agree.
And we are genuinely the thinkers. Like, we break down everything only to take the components, like the basic ingredients of everything that we learned, to build new ideas on top of that. And people really don't give us enough credit,
I think that,
genuinely.
you know, it's hard because, you know, we have really great self-sustaining programs like the College of Business. And so, you know, one of the most important things I've been talking about with admin is how can we get more students bridged and, you know, pipelined into these programs that we know are successful, right? Our College of Arts and Letters and students in political sciences or criminal justice and, you know, well, a lot of the law tracks or philosophy even. You know, we have absolutely phenomenal professors
Yes, we do.
who, you know, do a great job
And they
teaching
do.
the curriculum.
And not only do they teach the curriculum, they look outside of the university to bring in guest speakers, to try and find new professors, to build on the academic programs that we already have. And I was just at the Jane Conference for philosophy, and I was hearing them speak about it, and I was like, oh, wait, the reason that this is happening is because of, it's a large part in help to, like, student government, actually. Like, student government, the university president, the dean's offices.
Yeah, we're all collaborating.
Yeah.
You know, I can tell you, is working with President Hasner is phenomenal. I get, you know, some students, they say whatever.
Yeah.
You know, I think that they want to, you know, talk about perspective or whatever occurred beforehand.
Yeah.
But I've, in my honest opinion, you know, came here in 2022. You know, I've been here. I've never seen someone as engaged. I talked to all the presidents across all the other universities. They don't talk to their university president. They don't have someone who pours so much research and, you know, resource into us.
He has given us, I know people have so many reservations about him because of what he has done, what he did before he came here as our president. But at the end of the day, he has provided so many opportunities for this university to get money, and he allocates
I don't
that
even
money
think it's just
towards-
money. I think
He's also
it's
very
opportunity.
present on campus.
He's so present on campus. He's very much involved, and it's honestly such a breath of fresh air to have someone like him. You know, his first few months of his term have already shown, right? Like, we are a school that can be successful.
Yes.
And so I'm so excited to see what happens at this university, and I'm so excited to see, you know, what he's going to do.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. I hope to talk to you again eventually before
love
your
to.
term is over. And I pray to God we get Lance on here.
I would love to.
So
we
just
can
so people
we
can
set
get
that
your
up.
faces. Yes, because you guys are a big part of this campus. You help build the community, even though they don't see you very much. You guys give us so many opportunities. You're so behind the scenes that we don't see you. You're working 6 to 8 hours every single day. You were elected. We, as students, chose you to be our student leader. And that is just, you're in a position that we put you in, and you're doing everything that you can, and you've chosen the people in your cabinet to support you in your dreams and aspirations for this university. And that is just a blessing in disguise, honestly. So thank you so much for being
Really
here.
appreciate being here. I hope that students come, they get more, you know, engaged, and I hope that, you know, we get more leaders on campus.
Yes,
But yeah,
because we need them, because this is what university is for, to build leaders.
exactly.
Just so you know, your office is in student involvement, SIA.
It's
SAI.
student government.
The student government offices. It's right next to COSO.
Yes.
Right next to COSO. You just sort of ask the person at the front desk
Yep.
if any of student government is in, and if they are, you can just go back
Direct
to
you
their
right back to
office.
us.
Yeah, and
I've got an open door
knock on doors.
policy.
Yes.
Come knock. We'll talk about anything.
Trust me, he'll talk about anything.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yes. So thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for being
I
here.
really appreciate it.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. All right.
Ready? All right.